screen. So it should be available to you in 4 or 5 seconds. So this is my second lecture, and in my first lecture I talked about variable, and I requested you to think of a variable as a person. So just like we human beings, we live together, we live in a society, in a social support system, so do our variables, they live in a support system. None of the variable is alone, and that's what we are interested in studying. So two things, maybe some 10 or 20,000 BC, our ancestors have sorted out. Those who are variables, we are interested in them, and we wish to study and find their relation with other variable. And those which are constant, we can't do anything about that, and we start using those constants. For example, the maps, the direction, we can't do anything about it. So Burma or Vietnam are on the east side of India. So that's a constant. We can't do anything about it. But we can think about the various things related with human behavior, etc., as the variable, and then we study those variables. Now I will take back you again to some lessons of history, and I will ask you where the science started. I remember in your school days, you are taught, you are given lectures on, you are given the lectures on science. Just 1 minute. So all the science, physical sciences, they start with the units. If you recall, the unit system, it's something like 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. 1 mile is equal to approximate 1.6 kilometer. So 1 kilogram is equal to 1000 gram. So we always start the science with certainty, where variables are fixed. We know how to measure them, and there are certain lessons. But think of the social science. Till date, we have no instrument where we can measure your empathy, your love, your affection, or politics. These things we can't measure. So we have to depend on the human beings. I would like you to please think once again, if I want to measure height of any one of you or the weight of any one of you, I am least concerned whether you are in a good mood or a bad mood. I will just ask you to come forward, and there will be a weighing pin. I will ask you to please stand on that, and that will be your weight. So whether you are feeling good or bad, I am not concerned. Likewise, your height, likewise your age. I will just get the date of birth certificate and I will compute the age. But think of computing happiness and loyalty. There is no instrument, and it depends largely on your mood also. If your mood is bad, preferably I will not ask you, because the results will be contaminated, then results will not be the correct. So social science domain, we have to understand what's going in the mind of a human being, and we have to measure that. Please look for, even that human being is not sure what he or she will think after 30 minutes. But I will be, as a researcher, I will be asked to measure the thing and make policy on that. So first thing, you remember the people of marketing always put a star, conditions apply. Likewise, please remember, we will do a number of things, but there are every chances we will go wrong. So you have to appreciate we are dealing with such a thing which is totally very intangible. No units are there, nothing is there. It's totally unknown territory. Unknown terrains are there. We will travel to those roads. So there are every chances we will go wrong. So first thing, you will find science always talks of certainty. There are always the standard values. But in social science, we always give that this particular value should be more than 0.6 or 0.7. So we never talk about the value should be 0.9. You will think, you will see, we most of the time talk very vaguely. We never say this value has to be this. We say value should be more than this. How much more? That's okay. 0.7 is okay, 0.8 is okay. So we never put a threshold or this should be the value. We always say very roundabout things. So if you look for the feelings, opinions, attitudes, still we have no scale for that, no instrument which can measure. So, but still we will work. And this is the beauty of our life. I have a question here. When all of you were very young, let's say 5 years, 10 years of age, did you know when was the right time to ask for your parents? You wanted something, and did you know when you should ask your parents so that they will assent? I think most of us know that. And if you are a parent today, let me tell you, your kids also know when they should ask you, when you will say yes. So all those people who says, yes, we know when was the right time to ask our parents for something. So I hope none of you have taken any tuition for that. So how you learned that behavior? How you learned such a complex things when to ask your parent for something? Maybe trial and error, maybe you that again and again, or maybe you studied something, maybe the body language, face expressions, surroundings, etc. And plus your experience, you came to know that this is the right time, this is not the right time. So it means rights research started right from your birth. Every moment you are doing the research. There's a message from Indra. She says, I can't hear you. Well, friends, it's a very, very common thing on Zoom meeting that sound is often, there's a break in sound or some issues in sound. I will just ask you to please wait for certain moments. I hope it will be okay with the passage of time and you will get the recording of it. Uh, I hope Suman has started recording.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, thank you, Suman. Now let's go ahead and we will do a case here. We did it in the same time also. Now we'll start with a case study, and the case study will be first from the written text. We have to recognize a variable. So it means we are starting actually the research process. Research process says that you first start with a variable and then spend some time with the variable. We call it as review of literature. Think of yourself. If research is very complicated, think of your life. So when you are young and you decided now it's the time I should go for marriage, provided it's not the regular marriage or arranged marriage, then basically you talk to the people, you interact with the several people and you spend time with them, and then you look for whether this variable is good enough, whether this person is good enough that I can spend my life. So out of so many people you meet, how you feel, how you decide these are the people that can be a probable spouse, a probable friend. So likewise, what we will do, we will find out the variable from the written text. Now mind it, when we have a written text, there are so many words that are simple English language words. They have the articles, prepositions, conjunctions, or other part of the English language. So we will just do away with them. And we'll try to find out who are a variable and others as a constant. So let's try to do a study about it. This particular file you will get after the lecture. So I am taking this particular case. It's from the book of Marketing Research by Professor Naresh Malhotra. In the appendix of the book, he has given certain cases, and this case is antecedents and consequences of trust in B2C online shopping. Now, I will request you, we are talking about in general, about the things. Please don't fix yourself that I am from marketing, I am from HR. No, we are just discussing very generic things. Look at the topic, antecedents and consequences of trust. It means trust here is a variable, and antecedents means anything that leads to trust, and consequences means if trust will be there, then what will happen. So in this I can just see one variable trust and then antecedents didn't give me the name of the variable, but it tells me that, okay, there will be certain variables which will result into trust. And consequences is a blanket name that tells that when trust will be there, then something else will be there. So let me try to zoom one particular section. So just look for this. Okay. So I have zoomed one particular section from this, and the section reads like this. Several past studies, such as Chen and Barnes, Chalapa, Kufaris, Hampton, Sosa, provided empirical evidence on various important factors like privacy, security, and vendor repute that build online trust. Please read this line once again. First, the names of certain people are given: Chen, Barnes, Chalapa, Kufaris, Hampton, Sosa, etc. And then from the rest of the words, try to find out how many variables are there. Now, empirical evidence, that's okay, on various important factors. These are simple English words like privacy. Now, privacy comes out as a variable. Security can be a variable. Vendor repute can be a variable, and trust can be a variable. So we write like, therefore we hypothesize. What is the hypothesis? Higher perception of privacy in the website results into higher level of trust. I want you to read it once again. It says, okay, okay, okay. So this is another frequent problem, that when we switch certain programs on the Zoom in the one share, then second program is not visible. So it's very important you give your feedback by chat. I will request once again that use chat only for any problem, any issues. Don't use it for good morning, etc. I hope it's visible. The not this PDF file is visible to you now. Okay, so let's read this line once again. From there is that various factors like privacy, security, and vendor repute build online trust. Therefore, we hypothesize, and now read this sentence H1. H1 says higher perception of privacy in the website I'm reading it again. H1 says Dr. Naveen Kumar, is there any question?
No, sir.
Can you please mute your audio?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So the H1 readouts, higher perception of privacy in the website results into higher level of customer trust. I want you to read it once again and tell me how many variables you can see. So let's take word by word. Higher. It's a simply word of English. It's not a variable. Perception. Whether the perception is a variable or perception of privacy is a variable. So one can be perception of privacy, because perception can be of numerous things. So what we are asking for, perception about what? We are asking perception about privacy. So privacy is simply a context. Privacy means we are looking for perception of privacy. Please mind it, friends. Every simple word is important. Perception is not a variable, because then the next question comes, perception about what? That's why we have written perception of privacy. This is the complete variable. Now privacy where? In your personal life, in your office, where we are looking for privacy? So we are looking for privacy in the website. So that is another context. That is the another qualifier. We are not looking for privacy on your residential home or office or your some other areas. We are looking for privacy while you are working on the websites. So the variable is perception about privacy and in the context of websites. I hope you are able to recognize the variable. Then it says results. Results means this is the connector between the two variables. In high level is again word from the English of customer trust. So I can see two variables here. The first is perception of privacy and second is customer trust. Let me repeat it once again. Perception is not a variable. It's the perception about the privacy, and that too in the context of website. So perception and trust. So if you recall in the last lecture, we talked about certain English words which are mandatory. Only then we can have a bivariate object.
May I disturb you, sir? May I disturb you, sir?
Yes, yes, Mr. Reddy. Most
Perception.
welcome, sir.
Perception means, of course, my understanding is my perception about one thing is different from other person perception. So I feel it is a variable. That's what I understood. But you are telling it is with context with what is that the website context. You are telling perception is a not variable. But in general, perception is a variable. Am I right or not?
You are absolutely correct, sir. You are absolutely correct. And I am also saying the same thing. I am saying perception is the variable, but sir, perception can be about n number of things. Perception can be about government, about the civil life, about anything. So
Right.
here we have restricted, we are talking about perception of privacy. I do agree with you, and I am saying the same thing. Perception is a variable, but here the perception should be read in context of privacy. That is perception of privacy, and that too privacy of the website. Am I clear, sir?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, number one, the most beautiful thing about this is we have to read the English language and we are approaching statistics. Now, in the last lecture, I told you that statistics, grammar of statistics, it involves three things. How many variables are there, how you measure them, and what is the role of the variable. So our first job is always to find out in a given sentence or a given paragraph or even a thesis, the count, variable count. It's something like if you go in a marriage, there are 400 people around in that party, but you know how many your family members are there. And just, somebody is here, somebody is there. You are just looking for where are your family members. Likewise, when there are maybe some 7 or 10,000 words of English are written, we are trying to find out variables in that. That is the first job in statistics. So we are trying to connect English with statistics. So look for in the H1, I can see there are the two variables. One is perception of privacy in the website. So we can say perception is the variable, but here we have just little bit given more detail that we are measuring perception of privacy, and that too in the context of website. So perception is one variable and the trust is another variable. Can you tell me which word makes it bivariate? In the last lecture, we talked about in statistics, simply two cannot be termed as bivariate. It can be even two univariate. We talked about a principle of split. Now, the word which connects the two is the word results. You remember in the last lecture, we talked about certain words like effect, impact, leads to, influence, difference, compare.
లాగిన్ అది. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಅವ್ರು ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಇವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಯಾರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಹೆಸರು.
Hello everyone. So extremely sorry. There's a serious network issues at my end today, and this is frequently creating some problems. Let's quickly go back to our lecture, and we were talking about the way to read any of the from any of the text, find out the variables in it. Now, at this point, let's pause here for a moment and talk about some rules for model building. So what is a model building? Our first assignment will be that we will read out a text or a paper or anything of English and try to understand how many variables are there and how they are connected. I will request you, just think it like when you join any new office or new college. On the day one, you don't know the people, all the people there. Maybe you know one, two people, but you don't know all the people. So what you do, you just talk to the people, you interact to the people, and then you come to an understanding. This person is that related, then these are related this much. So today, if I'll talk you about your organization where you are working, Miss Maya Matthew, is there any question?
No, sir.
Can you please mute? Okay, let's come back. Well, really, it's very difficult to teach this way where people are not very comfortable with technology. Okay, let me try. So I was giving you an example that when you joined your this organization where you are currently employed, and I wish you to recall the first day. You didn't know many people here, and then you spend time with them, you talk to those people, gossiping, etc., the inside stories. And then now today, you know everybody, you know the organization structure, who reports to whom, who's senior, who's junior, who are personally related, who are officially related, etc. A similar thing we will do with our variables, and that is called as a model. So there are certain steps for the model building. Whenever we do research, I know number of people, they say review is something we will do, that's not an issue. And we have totally wrong understanding of the review. To us, majority of the people I have seen, review means talking about the study. That Sharma 2010 done a study and found this. Gupta 2011 worked and found this. Singh 2000 this. Pillai 2015 done a study and found this. This is a totally wrong way. This is not the review of literature. This is the collection of studies. So let's have certain rules for the review of literature. I'm just sharing the screen once again so that you can see the text file. So these are the following rules from my side. Obviously, I don't say that I am an authority, but whatever my experience is there, the first rule is we should focus on the variables, not on the persons. It doesn't matter whether two people have said that that relation exists or 20,000 people have said. We still have the two variables. For example, we have just read a particular thing that perception of privacy for the website increases the customer trust. Higher the perception, higher is the trust. So please look for, these are the two variables, and I am looking for the relation between the two variables. It doesn't matter whether two people have done it, proved it, or 100 people have proved it. The variables are still two. So focus on the variable, not on the persons. For one particular variable, one particular relation, I advise that if you got minimum 5 studies, that's fantastic. That's enough. We understand that the relation is there. It's not that by 100 studies, then I will understand. I got it, that you want to say that better perception, higher will be the perception, positive will be the perception, more trust will be there. I got this point. And the same has been like, we never say in the review that I think so. I hope you have noticed this thing. In the thesis, in the research, we never use the first person. We never say, I feel this way, or I am of the opinion. We always write in the third person that from the data it is evident. The result shows like this. It means I am saying it's not me. It's basically you collect the data. I am just authenticating these results will come. I am not important. Likewise, here I am saying persons are not important. So studies means certain people have done certain study. Please change your focus. Don't focus on the people as most of the state universities are doing across India. Our understanding is right about the study, and that's why it's not a surprise. Majority of the people say that you help us in data analysis and review we will write in the last. This is something saying like, please help me in making the 5th floor, and I will make the ground floor and the basement in the last of the building. I will make the top down. I will starting with the 5th floor, then 4th floor, and then lastly I will make this. The same is the case here, friends. Start with the variables. Then you need to write review in sections. It means whenever you talk about two variables, there will be a separate section. So in the section you will write, okay, these two variables have this relation. And then another question will come, how many studies we should mention? So you should give only landmark studies, not every single study on the planet. Mind it, you will see certain representative study. Now what are representative? We'll talk a little later, but just see, these are certain philosophical things. So try to understand what is the basic purpose of your research. Are you providing anything new to the world, or you are just validating? It means a true research is where you provide something new to the mankind. So first thing, you are not doing research for yourself or your family or your organization, neither your society. You are doing this research for the mankind. That's why if you are doing a research in South India, so as a person sitting in Kurukshetra, Haryana, my question will be that did I learn something from you? When you are doing any study, how I am benefited with that? So at this point, we can divide the research into two parts. One where we give a novelty, and second, validity. Most of us are taking a model, maybe from the Western countries, Europe, US, Canada, somewhere, and trying to see whether that variables behave the same way or not. I won't say this is totally useless. That's okay. That gives us a validation that a model of Germany is valid in Karnataka also. That's also I have learned. But if there is a new variable, that will be even more relevant. So the studies which provide the new variables or new insight, those I am calling as the landmark studies. The studies which are just validating, that's okay. That simply tells us that something valid in Karnataka is valid in Odisha also. That's okay. But no new variable. So any variable, any study talking about a new variable or a new relationship, I'm calling them as representative study as of now. You should mention that these studies in reverse chronological order. You must start with the most recent studies. So giving a study of 2010, people may have certain objection because after 2010, so many, 1 decade more has passed. So many new things people must have worked on. So you must work with reverse chronological order. Start with a very recent study and then go back. How much go back? Well, that depends. You may go back only from representative study wise. You may go decide on certain decades. Now, this cannot be generalized that I will give a formula of 10 years or so, because there are few things, for example, in behavioral science, even 200 years back, 400 years back, the things were the same. That's why the stories and novels of Shakespeare are as relevant today, though they are 400 years old. So it means these things, human emotions are same. But if you go for other studies like corporate social responsibility, so that cannot be 100 years old concept. So you have to, that it depends from case to case. And then every section must conclude with a hypothesis. And what is a hypothesis? Hypothesis is a relation between the two variables. So hypothesis is a sentence written in English having the two variable, a connector that connects the two, and then rest of the some other words. Okay. So every section must conclude with a hypothesis. And then finally, the entire chapter of review of literature should end with a model. So these are certain guidelines from my side. Now at this point, I will share you one more file about, these are certain guidelines about writing the review. Let me share one more thing about certain things which I have tried to write down, rules for the model building. So let me first open that, rules for the model building, and then let me share screen. So I have unshared the screen. So far, any question to anybody, you can now write in the chat box. If anything not clear to anyone, you may ask here at this point that what should we follow? Should we follow the things which I am telling you or what your university says? Friends, I am very, very specific on that. If you are a PhD student, I will ask you to follow your university rules. Whatever your guide prescribes, whatever your university says, follow that. If you are writing a paper for international journal or something, then that particular journal must give you certain guidelines. Follow those guidelines. So you should not be adamant that I will work only on this way. Rather, we should be comfortable in adapting to whatever the way other authority asks for. But as a person of research or a person of statistics, my understanding is, please try to understand at the core are the variables. For example, whenever we watch any movie, whenever we read any story, it's always about the characters and the people. So I'm saying, look from that perspective. Think of the variable as a person. So now what we are doing, we are trying to make a model. We are trying to make a model, and there are certain rules for that. Let me share the screen now. I will request Indra to please mute the microphone, or Suman, you please help me. Suman, this is creating a lot of disturbance. I hope my screen is visible to you. It may take a few seconds. So if it's not visible, then please write in the chat box. Okay, already written. Okay. Okay, there's a question. There are actually few questions. First question is from Lakshmi. The question says, sir, can these rules change according to the subject like hypothesis? 100%. 100%. I am just giving you a conceptual understanding from a statistics point of view. I am not saying that whatever I am saying is the final word. No, I am just saying that how the stats looks to that. It is this. Another question is there from Bhavit that ROL must end with a model. Is it applicable to all sort of research? Maybe, may not be, Bhavit. It depends on what sort of research you work. But actually, what I am looking for, I am trying to take you to a particular point where we will discuss which statistical test or technique is applicable in which scenario. I think this is that $1 million question which everybody want to know. And for that, we need to have certain understanding. If your all objectives are univariate, to study ABC, to study DEF, then there is no model, and then there will not be any sort of regression, hypothesis test, etc. I'm just trying to tell you how statistics looks at the world, how statistics look at us. And certainly, I'm not trying to generalize everything into one. So let me make certain star conditions apply. It all depends from case to case. So you please look for your area, what type of research you are doing, whether there is a model or no model. That's perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay. But the most of the studies we start with, if you're starting with review, then there must be one variable. There must be few variables. Whatever area you are working in, if there can be, the things can be put into data, into quantity, then it means there are variables. So I'm excluding all sort of languages, English, Hindi, Sanskrit, Kannada, Telugu, from this. There is a totally different way of doing the research. But in most of the social science, there are variables. And variables, when you quantify them, then comes statistics also into picture. I'm just trying to take you to the world of statistics, that how statistics looks at our world, where we talk in English, we speak in English, how statistics will look at that. This is my attempt. Certainly, I'm not trying to generalize everything, that everything is same. And likewise, Dr. Vasant Bhaskar has a question that he says, I have a concern about the statement that not needed to mention all the citation in the review. It depends on the study. If it is recently done with many studies, yes, you are perfectly correct, Dr. Bhaskar, that it depends on how much review you will mention. It depends on if you are a scholar, it depends on your university. If you are writing a paper, then maybe that particular journal will have certain guidelines. But again, from the perspective of statistics, look it, I am looking at the research in a very, very simple manner. I am looking on first lecture, I told you that objectives can be of two types: to measure a variable, to measure the relation between two or more variables. So when you say two variables are related, the first question comes, who said it? And certainly you can never say, I feel so, I believe so. So we will say, that's why the word empirical comes. Empirical is a word from the science, physics or chemistry. You remember empirical formula? That when the experiment was done, it was measured, checked, and the results of that experiment shows like this. So when we say empirically, it is shown that height of the baby depends on the age. It means empirically shown means it has studied time and again and they found a relation. So from that perspective, I'm saying that for one study, if you give 4, 5, 6 studies, that's enough. Please look for, are you looking at my perspective? I am saying look at the variable, not at the persons. Most of the time, people focus a lot and lot of attention on the persons. Please look, we don't say it a 1%, 2% or many person. Rather, we call it as one variable, two variable or many variable. The word of statistics thinks in terms of univariate, bivariate and multivariate. So I am just asking you to change a perspective. Again and again, I'm saying I am not an authority. I am not saying this is the way, whatever I've said are the final words. I'm just saying stats look at it into this way. Okay, so I'm a representative of statistics. I'm just telling you how stats look at our world. So there are certain rules for model building. They will be really very helpful in entire statistics journey. The first one, variables are of two types, observed and latent. Observed are which we can directly measure. Simple, we have settled down like physics, like chemistry. There are certain things we can directly measure. And while making a diagram, we put a box. And latent variable are those which are not measured directly, which are inferred. So please look for that. Your electricity bill is a directly observed, but mood of mama, mood of your father, that is not directly measured, that is inferred. You note down certain things, maybe the body language, and then you infer something. So that's a latent variable. Now these things are called differently in the different fields, and it raises a lot of confusion. The people of statistics are more comfortable calling them as latent variable and observed variable. A latent variable is which you measure indirectly, and observed is which you can measure directly. For example, age, height, profit, sales. Anything expressed in the numbers or like say monetary terms or where the physical units are present. Area, length, distance, height. These are observed variable. The people of management and commerce commonly call latent variable as factor or determinant and individual one as statement. Okay? The people of psychology call the same as construct and individual thing as item. So individual thing is represented in the box and which we infer is represented in a circle. So I will request you, please remember this first rule everywhere in the social science. Whenever you are talking about your variable, always think in terms of at the back end should be how I will measure it. For example, we are working on a case study which says perception, higher perception leads to higher trust. So please tell me, should we make a circle or a box of it? Can you measure perception directly? How much kg of perception you have or how many meter of perception you have? No, there is no such unit. Perception is simply a sort of your opinion at that moment. Likewise, your trust, that's again a sort of feeling, that's an opinion. So we will put a circle on both of them. So I will request you always keep this thing in mind whenever you write your objective, whenever you are talking about your variable. Please keep thing in mind that how you will measure that. Will it be a circle? Will it be a box? Friends of finance, they are working on that dividend depends on the company size. Now company size can be a box, dividend can be a box. Majority of the things in the domain of finance are box, while in HR, OB, organization behavior or human resource management, a majority of things can be a circle. I'm not generalizing that in finance there cannot be any sort of box. There can be. For example, in behavioral finance, we study about it. Even, you see, In hardcore things like finance, we use the term like market sentiment. And likewise, in HR also, number of employees, it's a box. It's exact, you can measure the things. So rule number 1 is there can be observed or there can be latent variable. Now going ahead with the rule number 2, variables are of two types, dependent and independent. That comes as the role of the variable. The role of the variable means there can be dependent variable, there can be independent. Now, a majority of the times we have clarity, but at other times there may not be that much clarity. For example, the three most important variables in the domain of economics, they are demand, supply, and price. And it's very difficult to tell who's actually dependent. They are interdependent, but in majority of the times, at least in management, commerce, engineering, we know these are the dependent, these are independent. I want you to just remember there is another word for dependent variable. They are called endogenous. Endo is a Greek root, the meaning is in, and exo, the meaning is out. So exogenous variable are independent variables and endogenous variables are dependent variables. So what we'll do, we represent in diagram in the form of an arrow. Head of the arrow always is turned towards the dependent variable. That's what I have written in the rule number 3. Any of the circle or box can be dependent or independent. For example, if I'll say sales depends on advertisement. Now first thing, sales, advertisement, they can be box. Second thing, sales depends, so head of the arrow should be towards sales. Likewise, motivation depends on financial incentive. So incentive can be box, and motivation, certainly we have to put in circle. Whenever we put a circle, the another question mark comes, okay, this is something I need to infer, but I must measure it by somebody else. It means we can never ever measure the circle. We can infer them. We measure something and then we try to conclude about it. That's why body language becomes such an important. 93% of the time, our communication consists of body language. We rely less on words and more on the posture, gesture, tone, pitch, etc. So we are inferring all the time. Another example I have taken that performance can be affected by leadership. Now performance, if I take marks of student or sales generated by employee. So again, I need to delineate, I need to note it down how I will measure performance. What is a performance according to me? I need to. So if I'll put it further, so for example, marks of students or sales done by an employee. In that case, it can be a box. And leadership, how to measure leadership? How much good leader you are? How can I measure it? There is no scale available like physics. Physical scales are not there. So we have to ask you certain questions and then we will infer it. And likewise, leadership has an effect on motivation. Rule number 4, as I just spoken, that none of the circle can exist without a box. Circle means, for example, motivation. I cannot measure directly motivation. I cannot observe it directly. For statistics, it has to be put into numbers. Please mind it. I remember there are some ways of data collection like observation. That's precisely okay. But if you want your friend statistics to help you, statistics will say, hey, I require numbers. Please put it into the numbers. Only then I will come, else not. If you are observing something, go ahead with that. Use qualitative methods. But if you want quantitative methods, it need to be converted into the numbers. And that's what I'm saying in the rule number 4. None of the circle can exist without a box. It requires a box. Now, interesting thing here is a circle may require a box or fellow circle. For example, I will say satisfaction is made up of intrinsic and extrinsic satisfaction. Now you may ask, well, what is extrinsic satisfaction? Then I will give you certain points to that. So it means satisfaction is another made up of another circle. So this sometime later we will talk. This is called orders. First order construct, second order construct, and so on. We can skip this as of now. And last rule is a variable is shown only once in a model. So you will not write again and again. You will use it only once. Let me come back to what we were talking about, the model building. Let me stop share. If any questions are there, you may please ask. So far, I remember, I know that this is something you are not used to. You have seen statistics in a very, very different way. And most of us have actually hated statistics. But let me tell you, my 20 years association of such statistics actually convinced me it's a very beautiful subject. It's a very common sense subject. It's a very easy subject. Just focus on the right thing. Focus on the variable. Rest of the things will all fall in place. Just focus on the variable. And the second thing, now step by step we are going ahead. Focus on the variable and also how you will measure it. Okay. So in general, we find in our society, we believe that the most intelligent people, they go to medicine, then they go to engineering. Somehow we have, for ourselves, we have created this hierarchy. But whenever it comes to research, I always claim the people doing research in social science are the bravest person. They are the bravest. Why so? Because something is going in your head which you are not convinced what you will say after 30 minutes. And I have given the responsibility to take that out. It's not an ordinary job. It's an extraordinary job. For the things like physics, chemistry, everything is settled. We know 1 kilogram is equal to 1000 grams. But here in our life, we are living human beings. We are not like the chemical compounds or physical elements. We are the life, ever changing. And that's where the things become interesting. And that's where we can appreciate our friend statistics. It will help us a lot. But we need to understand working of statistics. So first thing, variable. Second thing, how you will measure it. Now, let's go back to the same. The model built, I'm sharing the screen once again. Make certain diagram with in your notebook. Just a minute. Suman, is it visible to you?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
So somehow, Suman, unsaid rule is whenever I start online classes, everybody thinks of me and start calling me. I don't know how to get away with this problem. And the moment I got a call, my session is disconnected. So let's work within these limitations. Let's come back to the hypothesis 1. Higher perception of privacy results into higher level of trust. Let's do little fast. 2 variables, perception of privacy, and second is customer trust. Can you think of which is independent, which is dependent? So as it says, higher perception results means customer trust is dependent and perception of privacy is independent. Next question, circle or box? On both. Perception of privacy, circle or box? So we should make a circle. Customer trust, we should make a circle. So I got 2 circles. If I'm doing it in my notebook, the first circle says perception of privacy. The second circle says customer trust, and the arrow moves from perception towards customer trust. And on the arrow, I will write H1. It means 1 hypothesis, 2 variable. Keep the count with me. Second hypothesis, higher perception of security in the website of the online vendor results into higher level of trust. Okay, we got so many words. Higher perception of, leave the word higher, perception of security. Okay, security perception where? in the website. Again, question comes, whose website? Of online vendor. So look for the 4-5 words are, one is perception, second security, third website, fourth online vendor, and fifth customer trust. These are the 5 words which we need to scrutinize. I repeat, these are perception, security, website, online vendor, and trust. How many of them are variable? I can see 2. One perception and second is trust. What about security? See, again, perception about what? Perception can be about 100 things. Here we are in the first hypothesis, we were talking the perception of privacy. So here we are not saying general perception, it's a variable, but it's perception about security. Security where? In my house or in my office? Where? No. Security of the website. Okay, whose website? My college website or Gmail? Where? Which website? Facebook? No. Website of the online vendor. So can you see the rest of the words are merely the qualifiers? They are the context. That it was not required to write this much, but that's okay. People play with the words. So it's basically, there is an online vendor. Vendor has a website. For the website, we are looking for the security and we are asking people's perception about that security. Variable is only security, perception, and this perception is about security of the website of vendor. Rest of the things are merely qualifiers. We are not supposed to measure other things like every website, every vendor. From here, we can write as simple that perception of security leads into the higher level of trust, as we have written in the first. But people do feel very happy with their English and they try to write many words. That's perfectly okay. I'm not belittling it. It's okay. But I'm just telling you that stats look at it for the statistics. Only 2 words are important, 2 variables are important, and these variables are perception and customer trust. Coming back, perception, circle or box? Perception of security, again a circle. And trust, again a circle. But remember, one variable comes only once. I will not write the customer trust once again. Rather, I will make a circle, perception of security, and the arrow will go to the trust of the first hypothesis. So in the first 2 hypotheses, we have total 3 variable and 2 hypotheses. Please check your total, check your count. Total 3 variable, perception of privacy, perception of security, and customer trust. 3 are the variable, 2 are the hypothesis. Let's go ahead. Perception of repute of online vendor results into the higher level of trust. Again, 2 variables. Perception. Perception about what? Is it about privacy or security? No. In the third, we have taken perception about the reputation. Whose reputation? Of online vendor. Okay, so we have taken the perception of the people about the reputation of the online vendor, and we are saying that higher the perception, positive the perception, the higher will be the trust. Again, 2 variables, perception of repute, circle, and an arrow will go towards the trust of the first one. So in the 3 hypotheses, we have total 4 variables. Please see. Are you able to identify perception of privacy, perception of security, perception of repute? And 4th variable is customer trust. 3 hypotheses, 4 variables. Let's go ahead. This section is complete. This section was about the antecedents. Now let's talk about the consequences. Let's read from this several studies from this line. I hope you can see the screen. Let me read it out. Several studies such as Das and Saji, Salam, etc. have empirically shown that increase in the customer trust increases the purchase intention. Can you read this line once again from the word several to intention and tell me how many variables and how many people you can see? So variables are customer trust and purchase intention, and the people are Das, Saji, and Salem. So that's a convention of writing. Therefore, the following hypothesis is hypothesized. It means we are not doing it from our own because I feel so. No, I have certain evidences, I have certain studies which have shown it empirically, which have taken the variable, collected, applied statistical measures, and they come out with these results. So on the basis of their strength, I am claiming that the higher perception of customer trust results into the higher intention, higher purchase intention in online shopping. Look for the various words in hypothesis. Number one, higher. Okay, that's a simple English word. Perception, good. Perception of what? Of trust. Okay. Results. It's a bivariate connector. The results word is very, very important. But at the same time, instead of results, if I'll write leads to, higher perception of trust leads to higher perception of intention. Even then, it's the same meaning. If I'll write high perception of trust influences the purchase intention, it's the same. If I'll write higher perception of trust has an effect on higher purchase intention, it is the same. So please look for, we should not get trapped into the words of English. Look at it, how the stats look at it. Stat says how many variables? Two variables. Which are they? Perception and purchase intention. Purchase intention about what? That's about the online shopping. And perception about what? Perception about the trust. These are simply qualifiers or context. Variables are two, perception and purchase intention. Okay, the connector word says results. And what is the result? That when the trust will be more, people will have a higher intention. Again, my question, circle or box? Trust. There will be a circle, and that is already there in the first section. I will not write it once again. I will use the same trust because one variable comes only once in a model, and then it has an influence on intention. Intention, circle or box? Can I measure directly your intention? No, I have to ask you questions. It's a latent variable. It's a construct, indirect measurement. I will ask you certain things and then you will answer. So it will be a circle. So if you are with me so far, and if you are making it on copy, then you should get things like this. You should be able to make a conceptual model like this. And here we can just look for how many variables we have. A total of 5 variables we have. How many hypotheses? 4 hypotheses we have. And a circle indicates that we have all latent variable. Latent variable means these are the things which we will measure by indirect measurement. So this is generally the first thing, make a model. Now coming back to, let me stop share. If any questions are there, you may ask for, otherwise we will go ahead with something else. So far I have just spoken about there are variables. Variables are related. We try to think of them and we understand it in the context of a model. In the first lecture, I talked about there is a person lives in a family. We have done that thing so far. We understand our variables. We understand our variables never live alone. They live with the fellow members, and we try to understand their family. The same thing happens when you get engaged. When you get engaged before the marriage, what you are trying to do actually, I look it from this perspective, you are also doing review of literature, talking for 6 hours to the other person, talking about their family members, trying to settle down, a sort of a hierarchy. My would-be will have would-be in-laws, understanding about those. This is model building, understanding what are their relation, who is related to whom, etc. We do it in human life everywhere. When you join a new organization, when you join a new family, when you go to a new city, all the time you are doing the review of literature. You are looking for the variables, their relationship, how they behave, how they will be approached. You go by this. And our variables are just our replica. Just like we are, our variables are exactly our replica. So our variables are also related. So we will look for their family members. So how they are related, and we will approach to the family now. Now it's the time to tell them that, hey, something is missing. Yes, sir.
In social science, the variables are too many variables, and those variables are highly dynamic. Therefore, your hypothesis also will be dynamic, and models also will be dynamic. But in science, generally, our variables are not too much variation will be there. So we have certain models, and we stick to that model. But anyhow, there should be hypothesis, and we propose the model. But the model variables would be very, very less. Whereas in social science, the variables are highly dynamic. Probably statistics might help there. Whereas in science, the role of statistics is not that significant.
100% correct, sir. A perfect observation. So now we are, it's like climbing on the Mount Kailash or towards that side. So with every step, there will be 100 challenges will come. You have very aptly said it, sir, that how to measure, today what I am the total product of every single thing that happened in my life. How you will take one thing out? Uh, Before that, Naina KV, may I request you to put it on silent mode? It seems you are with kids. Suman, can you please help put him or her on silent mode?
Yes, sir. I've done that.
Thank you. Uh, Coming to same, okay, there's a question from Bhavit that purchase intention can be measured by directly with this. Bhavit, here the story becomes very interesting and it's multifold, just like the onion, it's every layer is coming up. Bhavit, if you are simply asking, do you wish to purchase, and person say yes and no, this is one sort of measurement and that can be taken in a box. I ask a simple question and you ask a simple reply. But most of the times, when it comes to opinion, experts say that you should not ask these direct questions. So many things are going on. That's why we will ask in certain other ways. We will come to that concept of scale. So, but again, at this moment, I will say, Bhavit, if you feel that no, I will ask a direct question, I will get a direct answer, you can make a box. If you feel the measurement is indirect, it will be circle. It is totally your decision. It's your variable. Remember, when you are married and you have kids, you got every right to raise your kids in your own way. Nobody will have an objection on that, right? So the way you will decide to handle your variables, it's totally your way. As a person from statistics, as a representative of statistics, I'm just telling you, Bhavit, statistical techniques are not good or bad. They are appropriate or inappropriate. I'm just requesting that we will go slow by slow. For a particular scenario, a particular technique will be used. I'm just moving in that direction. Every single thing, the way you will measure, Bhavit, will have an influence on your choice of statistical tool and technique. So you are totally free. You can do in whatever way you wish to. Coming back to the observation of Dr. Vijay, sir, you raised a very valid concern that there can be 100 things. For example, let me give you a very small example, sir. If we just ask for height of the baby, depends on what? So height of the baby. Suman.
Yes, I've done that. I've done that.
Suman, you can remove also. If
Okay.
few people, they are not, technology competent, you can remove also. As a host, you can remove them from the meeting. But Suman, this is really creating a problem.
I shall do that, sir. I shall remove it next time.
Thank you. Okay, let's come back to the question of Dr. Vijay Kumar. I was talking about height of the baby depends on what, and few of the things may be genetics. You know, we know the heredity factors are there. Age of the baby is very important. Nutrition is very important. Maybe the physical exercise, etc. They will help. So these are certain factors. I'm not saying all. Like gender also got an important role. In any given age, boys got an average height, girls got an average height. Now my point is, and all of us know that if I'll ask you that rate any two variables on which height depends. So it might be age and genetics. They are far more important than nutrition. Okay? These are far more important. Now comes Bonvita. Now Bonvita say that, hey, I can increase the height. Or Horlicks. Horlicks say. So now the question is, how will you do this study? Because when you say, I will give Horlicks to two sort of the group, the one who are given Horlicks, other not given Horlicks, you remember the people are from various genetic classes, families. So their effect of Bonvita will be different. And if the people are of various age groups, the effect of Bonvita will be different. So what you need to do? Here comes a third thing, that is the control variable. So for the real research, when you wish to make it to the real life, it's the control variable. Without control variable, none of the research is a correct research. It's simply a hypothetical, a imaginary research. Look for the friends, look for certain things. These are of common sense. This is not of statistics or very rocket science is required. Some person is working and it says performance depends on motivation. Fantastic. Now my question is whether performance of employee depends only on the motivation. So if I'll ask you that, please tell me a few things. So I think the first will be the financial incentive. We all work for our bread and butter. So performance is dependent on our bread and butter. So if you don't consider this, if you don't control the incentive, so I will give you a scenario that, see, you got an organization, nobody will be given the salary, but you can just take the performance by motivating. You apply all theories. You are free to motivate them to the whatever extent, but no salary will be given. I doubt whether there will be any performance. So it means when you say that performance, I found that leadership has an effect on performance, don't forget you found this relationship when there was no other variable. Other variables are very, very important. So we simply say keeping other things constant. No, they are never ever constant. They are never ever constant. Let me give you an example. I think I gave the same example in the last lecture, but worth repeating. In a study, it was found that as the weight of the participant increased, their IQ increased. What is your opinion? As the weight of the participant increased, their IQ increased. There are every reason for few of us to be very happy. Those who are concerned about the increasing weight, as the weight increase, IQ increase. Now we see there is no meaning of it. We can't relate it to, weight and IQ, how they are related. But it's a fact. Let me tell you how. The participants were the young babies, and for the young baby, please look for, as the age of the baby increase, their weight increase. Yes or no? As the young baby, their age increase, their weight increase. As the baby's age increase, their IQ increase. So if you just find the relation between weight and IQ, certainly you will find a high relation. But it doesn't mean that weight causes IQ. It means what Dr. Vijay raised, a very, very valid point. It means taking away the effect of age, you will not find any relation of weight and IQ. That's what is called as the control variable. You must control them. So technically, for simplicity, what is a control variable? So sir, control variable is the variable which are previous independent variables prior to your study. Prior to your study, these all were the independent variable. Let me explain in our language, sir, in a very simple terms. I have a question to all the married people. I think 91 people are there. All the 90 people, I have a question. Just recall, this is question only for married people. Unmarried people will not attempt. So question to the married people is, before your marriage and after your engagement, people generally have very good dreams. In the dreams, you are flying with your spouse in the clouds, etc. You are on cloud 9, and it's a very beautiful dreams are there. My question is, how many of you saw your future mother-in-law or father-in-law or sister-in-law in your dreams before the marriage? I repeat my question once again. This question is only for the married people. Before the marriage and after the engagement, how many of you actually in your dreams? Generally, it's zero, none. Okay, why so? Because there is a one DV and one IDV, one dependent variable, one independent variable, and their R is almost perfect, sir. They are very wonderful people together. They are perfect. But what happens after the marriage? After the marriage, you will find maybe after 6 months or after 1 year, the both people, they wonder what happened now. Earlier we had a very fantastic relation, and now something is wrong somewhere. What is it happening? Nothing happened. Earlier also the relation was the same. You have not considered the control variable. So who are the control variable? All the family members from the boy or the girl side. They are the control variable, and they will affect the relation. So it's as simple as that. If there is nobody else, then the relation is something else, and in the presence of this, the relation is something else. So it means when we say that bone vita, I will check the effect of bone vita on the height. Necessarily, first I must look for, other than bone vita, what are the variables on which height depends. It means I will look for the gender, I will look for the nutrition, I will look for the age and genetics, and first I will see their effect, and then whatever is remaining. Now it means certainly these four do not influence height to the fullest. See it one by one, how our ancestors start. If you say genetics has an effect on height, it means all the family members of a family should have the same height, because genetics is same, siblings. But we say no, it has an height, it has an effect on height, but not 100%. Please mark this word, not 100%. It has some influence, but not 100%, up to an limit. Later on, I will call this as R square. So let's call it, for simplicity, there is some percentage. Okay, what about the rest? Then we'll say age also have an effect. But if that is the scenario, then two person of the same family, of the same age, should have the same height. Recall you and your sibling. If you and your sibling, when both were 11 years age, were your height same? Both your genetics were same, and when you were 11 and your sibling was 11, no, height was not same. It means genetics and age has an effect, but then there are others also. Okay, others may be gender, because you see, boys got an average height, girls got an average height, nothing good or bad, it's natural. So it means now we come, okay, there is a genetics, then there is a age, then there is a gender, then there is a nutrition, then there is a physical exercise. Having said all this, if all of them are same, then should be same height. No, there are certain missing items. So it means, please try to understand what we are doing in the research. It's not only about the research, it's not only about the science or social science. What exactly collectively we human beings are obsessed with? There is a one obsession all of human beings have. The obsession is to know the future. We want to know the future. We want to live in a certain world. We want to know when this will happen, this will happen. Certainty is what we are looking for. That's why we are looking for every new variable. So till what time the research will continue? Till the time there is uncertainty. The moment there is a certainty, then research is no longer required. For example, malaria. Malaria, there is a tablet you take and you will be okay. TB, there is a tablet, it's okay. But HIV or Corona is still, we don't have tablets. The research is on. So we want to make a scenario of cause and effect. We want to make a deterministic model. Like Dr. Vijay mentioned, it's very complicated. There are so many issues involved. Again, that's why we will go for control variable. As of now, if you are not taking control variable, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. But for a real research, control variable should be mandatory. Only then you will see the effect. Let me give you one simple example and then we'll come back to our point. Sir, we got a scholars present that I will enroll on thesis, and they generally take a topic and then present their case in the DRC, Departmental Research Committee. We found one scholar who said, sir, I wish to check the effect of Modi government on the Indian economy. Okay, that's a good topic. I wish to check the effect of Narendra Modi government on Indian economy. Okay, how will you do that? He said, I will take certain variables because the Modi government has completed one term. So I will take the maybe one term of Dr. Manmohan Singh and one term of Narendra Modi. I will take the indicators. I will compare before and after experiment or something like that. Now, my observation was, my concern was, after Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, something happened with Syria, something happened with Yemen and Saudi Arab. There was a war. India has nothing, no, not participated with that. But the war between Saudi Arab and Yemen, will it have any impact on Indian economy or not? Think over yourself. USA for some time raised some sanction from Iran. Will it have any effect on Indian economy or not? So the point here is, when we say after Narendra Modi, it's not only Narendra Modi. Can you think of, there are hundreds of other things that are impacting this, and you are just countering everything in the name of Narendra Modi? Are you able to see this thing? Because there were good monsoon, there was a boost in the economy, and you said it is because Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister. Something is happening with US and globally. India is not participating in that, but India is still, our economy is affected by the international decisions. So where you have controlled those effects? My question is, after Narendra Modi, it's not only Narendra Modi, it's everything that contributed to the Indian economy. You cannot say this is because of Narendra Modi. No, it is wrong. That's why you need to think in terms of control variable. If you don't control other things, your conclusions will be meaningless. That simply I wish you to just ponder upon, that whenever you say, yes, it's a cumulative effect. So how to take out, now coming to your topic, to check the effect of Narendra Modi, how will you do that? It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to do this. And please mind it, there is one more issue with the human beings. Issue is, we change after the time. There is an effect of time also. Think of a scenario. There is a young kid of 18, 19, 20 and recently had a breakup in the morning. So if you ask that person, how are you feeling now? The person may say, well, I'm just going for suicide. I had a breakup. And if the same question is asked to the same person after 1 year, then it will be as fantastic reply that there were the fantastic days. So just think of the people, the same happened with GST. So many people have done work on the GST, and if you look for the effect of GST today, you may get a totally different scenario. You may get a different scenario. So we have to talk about something called dependent variable, independent variable, control variable, mediator, and moderator. These are the 5 things, 5 roles we will talk about. So there is a question from Usha, that is the control variable same as mediating variable? No, Usha. Mediating variable is different. First thing, please remember, mediating variable is the variable under study. Control variables are those variables which affect your DV, but we acknowledge that and we control that. For example, a person X and his spouse Y, their family members are their control variable, and if any of them enter into a triangle, love triangle, that's a mediator. It's a very complicated thing. Okay, another question, that there can be hundreds of control variable. Yes, 100%. 100% there can be hundreds of control variable. How will you study? Again, look for, when I say height, there can be actually, if we can have a one-day conference, height depends on what? People from all fields, we may come up with maybe 100 variables, but you will appreciate not all variables have the equal effect. The effect of genetics and age will be far, far more than physical exercise and nutrition. That is far more. It means not all variables are equally important. So as a student of research, my understanding is take a few. You can take one, you can take two. Generally in the PhD, people don't take any control variable, and that's precisely okay because we are learning the things. But as we are talking about reality, you know, the fact, contribution to the society, their control variable is a must. And again, it's very difficult to delineate that how many control variable you should take. Again, it depends on subject to subject, discipline to discipline. But do you understand the meaning of control variable? Control variable are those variables which we have as a humanity. We know those things, and research are exploring into the area of unknown. Here at this point, we come to the research objective. Let me share my screen. I hope you should be able to see the guidelines for writing ROL. Let me go to the next one, and the next one comes out as rationale for the study, need for the study, or gaps for the study. Now, this is one of the most funny thing in the entire synopsis, because this is ready-made. It's already available. People will say, need not to worry about the gaps. Gaps are standard. Like number one, not many studies has been done on this topic. Number two, not many studies has been done in my target area. Number three, the studies are very old. There are not very recent study. So these are given. Well, friends, this is not the reality. At least not from the statistical point of view. From the statistical point of view, the gaps are, the need for the study includes only two: either a new variable or a new relation. Either a new variable or a new relation. Most of us are doing in a new context. New context means the study was done in Germany. I am doing in Visakhapatnam. Perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. And I am not belittling your efforts that it is not good. It's good. But look for, as a humanity, we have not learned something new. We learned. Okay, there's a question from Kariba that whatever I'm saying, does it make sense to the literature, humanities, etc.? The question is yes and no. Largely, it's no. Reason being, dear, I have just spoken a few minutes back. I am a representative of statistics. I represent statistics. So statistics, the first thing in the statistics, there must be numbers. If there are not numbers, you are just observing your expressions, your words, etc. Then there is a different domain, qualitative study, or you simply write. Statistics comes into picture only when there is numbers. If you can convert it into numbers, then statistics is there for you, else statistics will not trouble you. So that's why if somebody is working in Sanskrit language, maybe statistics will not bother or not help and neither disturb you. So if anything you can do to convert the concept into numbers, only then statistics will come into picture. The definition of the statistics is working on the sample and inferring for the population. So when we work on the languages, English, Hindi, German, Tamil, then we are not working on the numbers. Statistics will not come to disturb you and neither help you. So coming back, friends, look for the two perspectives. One perspective is validation. validation means, just think of the scenario. Let me give you a scenario. You are working in a college, and let's say McDonald's or Haldiram or any this service fast food provider comes to your college and they say, we wish to open up a new retail store in your campus. And you said, okay, go ahead. So they started a new branch. After some days, they said that we want to know whether our customers are satisfied or not. Can you please help us? Now, satisfaction is something, it cannot be measured directly like height and the weight. You need to ask the people, you need to do survey. For that, now you can say, okay, let me make a new questionnaire or new instrument for that. Or you may say, well, there is an instrument which measures customer satisfaction in some other context, in some other country, and let me try to see whether that serves the purpose here or not. Friends, this is validation. Validation means a thing that is already existing, only the context is new. Something was developed in Japan, you are checking that in Cochin. That's perfectly okay. Context is new, so we can validate that. We should validate that. But remember, its answer will be in yes or no. Either it is right or it is not right. Remember? But generally in research, we talks of new variable. We talks of new relation. Yes, Dr. Krishna Rao, is there any question? Okay, thank you. So generally I'm saying that research means either a new variable or a new relation. So that's why it's better we start first with a model, and from the model then we say what is missing in this model. That we try to look at the rationale for this. Okay, there's a question how to, okay. Kariba Savana, I expressed my limitation that statistics is applicable to where you can convert to numbers, else you should attend any workshop on qualitative methods. There are workshops, there are people are working in these days in languages also, how they should approach. Certainly, I'm not the right person to comment on that. My area is statistics and quantitative research. I'm extremely sorry, I cannot help you in this one. If variables, from a question from Usha, if a variable has emerged from a study of previous researcher, can it be called a novel? Well, ma'am, actually it works like this. First thing, please try to understand, most of us are writing the objective. You know, it's, I see the research is, it's very same like marriage. Neither you understand in marriage and neither you understand anything in research. We experiment. And when you enter into a marriage or research, you are least prepared actually. So particularly for the research, I tell you, the people write their objective in a very, very funny way. And later on, they feel like, now what should I do? Most of us write our objectives, they are totally uncorrelated. In one, you will talk about ABC, second objective talks about DEF, third talk about something else. In turn, they are univariate objective, and that's why there is no bivariate or multivariate technique available. But then you have a pressure that no, there must be, you know, regression must be applied, t-test must be there. But for that, you must have the correct objective. Coming to your question that if it's an old variable, then can it be considered as a novelty? So ma'am, coming to this point, let me just go back to this model. Let me stop share and share my screen once again. First thing, there are in total 5 variables: perceived security, perceived privacy, perceived vendor reputation, trust, and purchase intention. Now, number 1, did I make it? No, it's already been settled by the several people. So when I write H1, so I can go back to the section of H1, I can find out the people who empirically found that when security, perception of security is increased, trust increase. I can see that those people. So what is my contribution in that? I have just compiled it. Perfect. But now I will improve this model. I will try to look for this model. For example, I will say whether trust depends only on the 3 Only on the perception. Now I take a old age variable, gender, and I will look for certain studies which says that, you know, in a teenage, boys behave this way, or trust issues among boys and girls, whether they trust easily or not. Maybe age. Can trust be affected by the age of the person? There is one particular age you trust everyone, you feel more, have trust in your friends than your family members, and then there is one age you don't trust anyone. So can the age have an effect on this? So basically what I'm saying, I'm taking an existing model which have been proven by the other people, and I am trying to improve this model by incorporating new variables. So answer of your question, Usha ma'am, that if the model is something else and you are incorporating a new variable, then that's perfectly okay. That can be called as an addition. That's your contribution. But we cannot simply experiment. Let me take this variable. No, there must be some common sense approach. Like trust depends on age. I must have some studies, some common sense things. Why I feel so? Has anybody found this so far? Will this applicable in the online scenario also, online shopping scenario? Only then I can combine the things. So yes, we can take a new variable, and basically we are doing research to understand the things in much better way. So there was a question about the mediation. Now mediation we will discuss a little later. These are into higher effects. As of now, I have just give example of three. There is a dependent variable, there is an independent variable, and all other independent variable which have an influence on your dependent variable, we will call them as control variable. Not all control variables are equally important, so we will take some of the control variable and we will measure them and then remove its effect. One particular way, one particular technique for that is called partial correlation. So many people, they say partial correlation is the threshold, is the starting point of multiple regression. We will come to this, but remember, as of now, your questions are important, and believe me, we are following the legacy of some very, very great people like Carl Pearson or Francis Galton or Fisher, Ronald Fisher, etc. They have settled down with these issues. Whatever we are asking today, that how to remove the effect of some variable from other variable, there are procedures for that. We will come to that, but please look for, I'm still on the same issue. I'm still on the same issue that there is a variable, there is a model. I say it once again, yes, I understand model building may not be possible in every scenario. I admit it. There may be 1,000 variable and we are working on any few. I admit, yes, perfectly okay. There can be hundreds of control variable, correct? There can be variables which are very difficult to measure. For example, mood, how to measure that? Yes, these are the challenges. I acknowledge and I appreciate all of the challenges, but I'm just saying there are certain procedures. We will come to the procedure, but focus on the variable. Variable is at the center. Variables, as of now, today we talked about the two things. One, that variables, just like us, live in a family. That's called a model. We extrapolated from the previous lecture. We said recognize a variable from a given English sentence or a paragraph or a thesis. Look for the variables, look for the relation, and try to make a model. It will be really wonderful if you make a model. Making a model means if I come to your family, you introduce your family members, my spouse, my parents, my kids, my siblings, etc. You don't say that I live in a house and so many other people also live there. No, you don't say like this. You say I live in a family and everybody is related. Likewise, variables are also related. We call it as model. If there are certain area where there is no model, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. So there's a observation by Dr. Vijay that outcome of control variable is known but not others. Yes, sir. Outcome is known means it is affected. Outcome control variable affects. It may be same, it may not be same. Vijay sir, I want you to understand science and social science. Please try to understand this thing. we call ourselves, our ancestors called ourselves also science, but please remember, we are not the exact science. We are approximate science, sir. Actually, it happened, if you just read some history, you will find majority of the concept of science were developed in the 1700 and 1800. Things were settling down. Mendeleev was okay with the periodic table. All the elements were settled down. Bohr was doing some experiment on atom. Rutherford was working, and everybody was working, settling down. The people of the science were having the highest status in the society. They were very, people recognized and honored those people. Our ancestors, social science, they also wanted the same. So they say we are also science. But we are not exact science. 2 plus 2 in human beings can be 4 also. It can be 5 also. And surprisingly, it can be 0 also. Okay. So we are also science. Our variables also behave like the other variables of science. They have something called empirical formula. So in your school time, I hope you have gone through Boyle's law, Charles' law, Avogadro's law, and so much many things you are taught about. You remember them? And every single thing was saying one thing: I have an empirical formula. It means when you say PV is equal to nRT, pressure, volume, temperature, they behave in this particular way. Whether you do it in Antarctica or you do in Himalayas, it will be same. Now, just think of, are we human beings same? Are our patterns, our thinking pattern, our opinions, are the same? The way a person is happy in Japan or sad in Japan, are we follow the same thing? I remember you must have gone through certain case studies. People in Japanese workers were very angry, so they put a black strip and they went for production, maybe of one particular shoe or from the pair of shoe. They work extra so that management is not able to sell them. This is their way of expressing their anger. In India, we have totally different and very fantastic ways of expressing our anger. The first thing, we burn our public property. So person of Europe will never understand your own property, why you are burning it. You are giving tax and you are burning your own property. Why? But this is our way. So my question to you, all of you, is a way a physics behave, a chemistry, a molecule behave is the same, but opinions, things, they are not same. They do not work. We are not like the chemical elements or the physics. We are not like that. We are the life. So yes, sir, empirical laws do not have the theoretical basis. Correct, sir. So here we work on the theory. We say that stress have certain factors. In Germany also it may have, in Uganda also it may have, and in India also have. There can be same, but we can have our own stressors also. So some of the things may be same, others may not be same. That's why we need to check again and again. And what to talk about the Europe and India? A model in India doesn't work the same way in the entire India. If you look for the South India, if you look for the North India, and if Northeast, it's totally different. With every 40-50 kilometer, the things change. The way the variables will behave might change in India. We are a world in itself. We are so large. So it means a model which works in Kerala may not work in Himachal Pradesh. So that may be totally different. So we need to understand, in social science, things are different. We are talking largely about the opinion, feelings, which are not measurable. Few things are measurable, but yes, one limitation is you need to convert into numbers. So at the center is the variable. Second thing, variables can be various roles. Various can have various roles like dependent variable, independent variable, control variable. We will talk in future about mediator and the moderator also. But mediator is not control variable as of now. I asked you how to read the review of literature. Most of the people, they say, whenever we study, we have absolutely no idea what to study. So my simple approach is that collect the variables and just see which variables are your engagement. It means Just look for the variables, not the persons. People are not that important as variables are important. Focus on the variable. Hello, Suman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. So let me just conclude today's session with just quick revision of what I have discussed so far. And so we started with science versus social science. And science always, there are the fixed things, measurements are done. In social science, it's not so. In physical world, we have weight, age, height, area, etc. But in social science, we have largely the feeling, opinions, attitude, etc. But we do have the sales and the finance figures, that's also there. But largely, social science means feeling, opinions, attitudes. So first thing, we have to extract variable from the written text. So we will take, there are certain English words, there are variable and a constant. We have done a case study to differentiate between the simple English words, variable and constant. I have given you my understanding how to write the review of literature. Focus on the variable, and review should be written in section wise. It must culminate at a hypothesis and overall with the model. This is what the majority of the journals are asking for paper publication in A or A star journals. In social science domain, particularly, I am not referring here to the language or the humanities area. They have a different way of working. It's called qualitative workshop, qualitative area. I am talking of quantitative. Why we do a study? Because we can introduce a new variable or a new relation. Largely we do for a new context. That's also okay. But if you can add a variable or a new relation, that's even better. Finally, friends, please look for, these are inseparable things. Variables combined are, their relation is called hypothesis. Collection of all the hypotheses is called as the model. In the model, then you will tell what is left out, that is called gaps, and the same gaps becomes your objective. These 5 things are inseparable. You cannot say, you should not ask any person that please help me in writing the objective. This is wrong, because how can anybody simply start with writing the objective until and unless you have the variable, their relation, their entire family, model, and the missing link. Missing link should be the objective. And finally, it's not over here. Whatever your objective is there, the same will go to the tool and technique. These are again inseparable. You can take as many objectives in your work. Please be very careful in writing the things. Some English words are important. Then we'll come to the role of the variable, dependent, independent, control variable, how you will measure. Measurement is called as the heart of the research, metric or non-metric, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. This is the heart. And once you decide this much variable and I measure this way, appropriate tool or technique will come. These are inseparable. These are in sequence. Just like you start a building, you always start with a basement, with the ground floor, and then you go ahead with the first floor. You cannot start the top down. You have to go for bottoms up. Similar is the case with the research. So we can stop it here. There was a lot of hiccups in the session, but I'm really thankful you are with me. Hope you are enjoying this journey of looking at the statistics in a totally different way, non-threatening way. It's very fun. It's just like us. Please don't be afraid of it.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
What I have understood, my perception about this is, whatever may be the subject, whether it's social science or physical or natural science, the research methodology should be the same. Only the variables and models are different. That's all.
That's all. Perfect. Exactly, sir. Exactly. Okay, so if there are any queries, you can write to me. I hope someone will share my mail ID with all of you. And this particular text file and a few other files I will share after this session. So hope to see you again some other time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.